Hello ladies and gentlemen, Top Hat Gaming Man here, and if you have recently been following me on this channel, you would know that I have uploaded a video on the top 30 greatest gaming systems of all time, and this list was compiled as a result of a vote put out there by Retro Gamer magazine, where their readers basically put forward a list of their favourite systems of all time. Due to this list with only 30 systems and there being an abundance of great systems out there, there was a lot of good systems that missed the list. According to the response from my comment section on my video about this list, there are a few systems which people seem to be sad didn't make the list. One of those was the Nintendo Wii U, another of those was the ATARI ST, which seems to have a lot of fans behind it, and the third was the PlayStation Vita. And it's quite amusing that this system missed out, really, when you consider there are other handhelds on the list which are perhaps not quite as good, like the ATARI LYNX, for example. As much as I love the ATARI LYNX, I would never choose to play an ATARI LYNX over a Vita. That just wouldn't happen. Another one that was on the list which made it over the Vita was the Nintendo DS, which oddly got voted above the 3DS as well. Like, the DS was a good system for its time, but the 3DS did literally everything better than the DS, kind of making it a redundant system to go back to. So, and also you have the Nintendo Switch as well, a system that's only bloody been on the market for a year, so the library on the platform is ridiculously small at present, so putting it in the top 30 systems ever seems a little bit, you're jumping, I can't even think of the bloody analogy. You're jumping the gun a bit there, aren't you, by putting the Switch on that list. Vita, however, completely absent from the list. So let's discuss this delightful little system for a bit, and perhaps discuss why it could be perhaps underrated at this moment in time. First of all, let's look at some of the weaknesses, as I said, reasons why it could have been overlooked in its prime. I believe the system came out around 2011, possibly 2012. 2012, I think I heard about it just before the Olympics, because I was working in London at the time, and I remember there being big billboards up everywhere for the Vita. And I just remember seeing it and thinking, I don't think I'm ready for this platform yet. I didn't get that much fun out of the PSP, so why would I be ready to grab another Sony handheld? For a start, the PSP annoyed me somewhat with its ridiculous load times, and I remember in the marketing for this thing, the main aspect, what was seemed to be being pushed by the media, is you could get, like, I believe it was a SIM card or something along those lines, where basically you had 3G on your Vita, so you could download basically pointless mobile games. Like, that's a bit crap, isn't it? Like buying an expensive handheld so you can download cheap mobile games. Like, why would you want to do that? Why would you make that the main selling point of your device? That just blew my mind. So due to its ridiculous price point and due to the mobile gaming push, I tended to ignore the Vita for a few years. That was until 2014, after the price on the system had dropped somewhat, and they released what I believe to be, where is it in my list of, can't even see it there, but yes, I can't see it in my pile, but Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy II on one cart. I love my JRPGs, love Final Fantasy, and personally, I think there is no better way to experience JRPGs than on the go. Just the nature of the games overall, you're expected to pump so many hours into JRPGs, and personally, I do not like being pretty much a slob and sitting in front of my television for 50 hours at a time in order to complete one. Like, that's almost antisocial behaviour in my opinion. However, you can complete a long game like that on the go. Like, at the time, like I said, I was working in London and stuff like that, so it was great to sit on the train for hours at a time and work my way through these epic JRPGs. And to be fair, that's one of the great things about the Vita as well. It's perhaps got more good JRPGs on the system than any other handheld in history. So if you like Japanese role-playing games, then the Vita is surely the system for you. In terms of negatives as well, apart from the price and the stupid mobile gaming push, the other annoying thing about this device was that you had to buy expensive memory cards in order to play the games, and they wasn't regular SD cards like you would get on a lot of systems. They were bespoke Sony cards which cost way too much money. Like they were SD cards basically, what were a different shape so that Sony could pretty much overcharge you. So that would have put a lot of people off the system, and that would have even slowed down some people perhaps in collecting for Vita, because they would have filled up their memory card, then perhaps thought, I've got enough Vita games now, I don't particularly fancy buying a memory card. So that could have slowed down game procurement somewhat. So yes, there's my lovely Vita box, still in very good condition, as you can see. And here's my humble pile of PlayStation Vita games, all of which, or at least most of which, I believe you should perhaps give a try and play. We've got Wipeout 2048 here, a nice little racing game. We have Touch My Katamari, which was originally an experience you could get on the PlayStation 2, but you can play it on the go on the Vita. We have Rayman Origins, which to be fair has been ported to every bloody system under the sun, so nothing exciting there whatsoever. Borderlands 2, again, pretty impressive for when it came out. Like, this was a PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 game which was being ported to a handheld at the time. Like, this was years before the Nintendo Switch, so seeing something like this on a handheld was pretty cool. However, the actual play experience, nah, not for me, on the basis that you do not have the same amount of buttons on this thing as what you get on a PlayStation 3 controller. Like, you have to tap the back, which is irritating as well. Not doing a very good job of selling this system, am I? But yeah, it's got its advantages. Uncharted, Golden Abyss, everyone loves a bit of Uncharted. The Jak and Daxter trilogy, so you can play the 3 Jak and Daxter games there. Assassin's Creed Liberation, God of War collection, so again you can play God of War 1 and 2 on a compilation disc on your Vita. Now we get into games that are a little bit Japanese, a little bit weeboo, but yes, you can't get games like this on the 3DS or Switch, I believe. So you've got Grand Kingdom, we have Odin Sphere by Atlas, we have Ys or Eyes or Ys, however it's meant to be bloody pronounced, Ys Memories of Celceta, is it pronounced, which was actually a lovely fan donation. As you can see, I've got the big box here as well. You have Blaze Blue, I'm not reading the rest of that title, too Japanese. Undertale as well, you can get the bloody cult classic Steam game Undertale on your PlayStation Vita, which is nice. Lost Dimension by Atlas. Persona 4 Golden, many people's favourite JRPG of all time, has got a port to the PlayStation Vita. Gravity Rush. Steins Gate, not a fan of that one really, don't know why I have it. Final Fantasy X and X-2, the game I was looking for earlier. New Little King's Story. If you've been a fan of my channel for a while, you may have seen me promoting the game Little King's Story for the Nintendo Wii. In my opinion, one of the best Wii games on the entire system. New Little King's Story is a complete remake of the game and somewhat of a remaster. It's got much snazzier graphics and music than its Nintendo Wii counterpart. The game has literally been completely overhauled. However, personally, I think the Wii version has more charm. However, it's amazing to play this game anyway on the Vita. And at least it's a different experience. It isn't just a straight lazy port like what we got from the Wii U to Switch games. This has got big differences. So that's better than nothing, I suppose. Tales of Hearts R by Namco. So if you want a Tales game on the Vita, you have that too. I've got Trigger Happy Dagon Romper, if that's pronounced correct, and Serang Kagura, which is very weeby, but I saw it for cheap in a second-hand shop, so I thought maybe I'll give it a go at some point, but probably not, to be honest. So yes, as you can see, the Vita, a very Japanese system, I suppose. Well, at least my selection of games are very Japanese for it. So as you can see, the Vita is a very different beast from the 3DS, and it's a very different beast, I suppose, from any handheld system ever. It really is a unique piece of kit, And to be fair to it as well, it was bloody extremely powerful for its day as well. It's pretty powerful now. Like, if you play a game on the Vita, I don't think they look particularly much worse than anything on the Nintendo Switch. Graphically, they look pretty much the same. But to be fair, I'm not one of these graphics perverts, so I could be completely wrong with this scenario anyway. But yes, overall, the Vita, ridiculously underrated platform. So underrated when you think about it. Like, people probably talk more about the Game Gear or the Neo Geo Pocket Color than they do the Vita. And like I said, the LYNX outranked it on that list. So yes, the Vita, it was a very, very underrated system, I suppose, with a very unique quality library of handheld games. If I was a betting man, it really wouldn't surprise me, bearing in mind how badly this system sold, if the Vita, along with its games, became cult collector's pieces down the line, similar to what we experienced on the Sega Saturn. The Sega Saturn didn't do too well, but people absolutely love the platform today. So I would infer that the Vita is perhaps the Sega Saturn of tomorrow. Like, people call the Wii U the Saturn of tomorrow, but a lot of the Wii U games are getting ported over to the Switch. So the Wii U looks like it's more like becoming Dreamcast-ish, although I've already gone over this whole subject in another video, so we won't go over it any further. But the Vita, on the other hand, possibly the new Sega Saturn in a way, if it was a handheld, if it was made by Sony, if it was modern. Yes, it's not a Sega Saturn, is it? It's a Vita, but it's underrated, to say the least. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think of the PlayStation Vita, and do you think it is a travesty that the Vita failed to make the list, despite the fact that systems like the ATARI LYNX made the list, the Amstrad CPC 464, and a range of other quite obscure platforms, I suppose. Cheerio!